Is she ready? Okay. Thanks. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the October 12th Planning Board meeting. I'd like to start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, nation, liberty, just for your all's information, item number 5, Landahan Minor Subdivision, has been removed from the agenda. And we don't expect it to come back or know when it would if it does. Do any meeting minutes? No, no meeting minutes for approval. We have several correspondence items, all for the 1086 Strong Road subdivision. Bill Kaiser, Maura Steed, and Sheila Shalafo. And town board, anything to report? You need to come up. Sorry, no report? Okay, thank you. Any other boards here? Oh, okay. Kim? Next meeting?
Your next meeting will be October 25th, starting with final subdivision for the Fairways Phase 3, re-subdivision of lots 303 and 316. The applicant is requesting approval for re-subdivision of those lots into 8 individual townhomes. In a public hearing for Crown Castle Verizon on Benson Road, applicant is requesting approval to modify and upgrade equipment on the existing wireless facility. And the third item on that agenda for public hearing will be the Royal Car Wash site modification. The applicant is requesting approval to construct a third stacking lane with pay island, 15 additional vacuum stalls, and 5 employee parking stalls. You saw this previously. It did expire, so they had to reapply.
I was wondering.
Yes, and that's it, and any carryovers from tonight.
All right. Thank you, Kim. Anything for Kim from the board? Okay. Before we get started, I have several announcements I should be making. Emergency exits are to your left and right, and also out the back, as are the restrooms. Please be sure, since you're attending, to sign the attendance sheet on the table in the back. There are business cards at the back table next to the sign-in sheet that you can take with you with the email address and phone numbers for the planning department, should you have an interest in contacting them directly. Also on the back table is a copy of the resolutions that will be read tonight. There's 3 draft ones available with the agenda. Please turn off your cell phones. They don't ring during the meeting. Silence them however you like. And then if you have any conversations that you wish to have with people in the audience, take them outside, close the doors so that we can focus on the agenda at hand. Thank you very much. Our first item tonight is Victor CDR and Jeep Car Wash. Public hearing has been closed for this. The applicant is requesting approval to install 1,880 square foot external car wash to replace the internal car wash stations that were approved for the new commercial building. So with that, who's here for that? Thanks.
Good evening, Planning Board. Thank you for taking the time to hear us tonight. We're here for the 3rd time, hoping to get approval with conditions that we answer the technical comments in nature.
And I just need you to, for the record,
Oh, yeah.
identify yourself. For the
Trevor Hout with Passero Associates.
Thank you.
So just a brief summary. On September 27th, we had our meeting and I submitted a letter about the hydraulic capacity that was approved. Then we postponed to tonight so that we could get a resolution drafted and get some responses to these comments. On 10/5, Wednesday last week, we sent in the comment responses and some revised colored elevations, as well as the revised hydraulic demand letter and also answered the architect comments and the Labella engineering comments. And in addition, we briefly answered by email some of the additional comments that were from Town of Farmington Construction Inspector and the code reviewer. So that basically says the summary. Is there any questions or anything?
Well, I know that architecture was one element of this conversation, so I saw two different architectural renderings in the information we have. One is the split-face block, I think it is, full height.
Okay.
The other one was, I think it was brick partway up, or maybe
Yeah,
split-face
it was
partway
block
up.
partway up and then went to like an insulated board exterior. So
Which one is the one that you're,
it's the one that was the one that has color that has the insulation board. That one, yes. That is the one that we matched the existing facade of the dealership.
okay, any questions from the board? Joe?
No, I drive by it every day, and the building has come along nicely, and it looks very nice. And as this is going to be screened from the road, I don't think that's going to detract any of that. So I'll defer anything else to Wes in case the comments need further clarification.
Sure, okay. Scott?
Pretty much the same. I guess I would look to Wes to just make sure that they produced the calculations they needed to produce for the impact that was associated with that pump station we keep talking about.
Wes, did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, our letter dated September 26, 2022, identified one of the topics as being the sanitary sewer pump station PS7 and its capacity, and we asked the applicant to provide a plumbing plan as well as calculations for the proposed design, which they've done. So we have taken a preliminary cursory review of the information that's been provided. Things are generally, I think, what they've provided is acceptable. However, we would like a bit of more of an opportunity just to finalize our review of that. And so what we've done in anticipation of things being okay is we've drafted a specific condition in a part of this resolution that we can review with you if you guys are comfortable with moving forward on the rest of the project. I think based on the remainder of the responses besides PS7, they've satisfied those issues, and we'll just take a more in-depth look at the sanitary flows and capacity, and I think we're going to be okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks. Al? any
Nothing else
questions
to add. No.
For the applicant or Wes? Okay, that's great. Nor do I. I think we're in pretty good shape in terms of what we've asked for and what you've been able to provide. So we do have unless there's an objection, we have a draft resolution for your project. All set now?
Yep.
Okay. Whereas the planning board made the following findings of fact, and this is the application for Victor Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, application S22 SB 2022. And there are 13 of them. Now therefore be it resolved that the application of Victor East Holding Company LLC site plan entitled Victor Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Car Wash drawn by Passero Associates dated September 2020, received by the Planning Board August 9th, 2022, revised site plans received October 5th, 2022, Planning Board application 22 SB 2022, be approved with the following conditions. Conditions to be addressed prior to the chairman's signature on the site plan. Number one is standard. Number two, that the comments from Labella Associates in a letter dated September 25th, 2022 be addressed. Wes, did you want to comment on that item here, or?
So just to note that condition should also be revised to indicate that Labella's letter of September 26th rather than the 25th.
25th, okay.
My mistake there. I think we could just read the rest of the condition. That should be
Okay.
helpful.
All right. Further, that no signatures shall be provided unless Labella confirms via the submission material provided by Passero Associates that anticipated sanitary flow volumes from the freestanding car wash do not exceed the flows from the Chrysler Dodge Jeep car dealership site plan that was approved in 2021, project number at 26 SP 20. Should sanitary flows exceed what was previously anticipated in 2021, the applicant shall coordinate with the town engineer to resolve any sanitary sewer capacity concerns related to flows so that the town engineer is satisfied that no adverse impacts to the system would occur. I assume that goes along with what you were intending.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're looking for. That should help resolve any remaining concerns or questions.
Okay. Number 3, comments from the stormwater manager dated August 23rd, 2022 be addressed. Number 4, comments from the code enforcement officer dated September 6, 2022 be addressed. That comments from the town of Farmington construction inspector dated September 28th, 2022 be addressed. Ongoing conditions that the site plan comply with the town of Victor design and construction standards for land development, including section 4. Number 2, the building design plan shall be consistent with the architectural landscape details as shown on the elevations, titled Victor Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram external car wash, and details as shown on the site plan drawn by ALA Architects dated April 4th, 2021, received by Planning Board August 9th, 2022. That a building permit be obtained prior to construction of the car wash. Number 4, that a sign permit be obtained. Is there a need for a sign on that building? I didn't ask that question, I had it in mind.
We showed on the elevations an option to have signage.
It's not a public car wash, correct?
Yeah, no, it's
just
for
something you're
the
using internally.
customers of the dealership.
Yeah.
So, would that be a bridge we could cross when we went to the building permit?
If you were looking to put a sign on, yes.
Okay, okay.
Just a question I noted and something I saw on your building
Thank you, yes.
detail. Okay, thanks. And be it further resolved that the planning board secretary distribute the planning board's approval letter. So with that resolution, do I hear a motion for approval?
I'll move.
So moves,
I'll second.
not seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried 4-0. You're all set.
Thank you, board.
Thanks.
Appreciate your time. Thank you, Wes.
Item number 2 is a public hearing. And any speakers that wish to approach the podium to address the board and/or the applicant, please limit your comments to 3 minutes, and we will conclude any comments at 5 minutes. Crown Castle T-Mobile, 795 Old Dutch Road, owner Global Signal Acquisitions. Applicant is requesting approval to replace and upgrade antennas and equipment on an existing wireless facility. Is the applicant here? All right, thanks.
Good evening. My name is Brian Tempio. I'm with N Network Building and Consulting, representing Crown Castle on behalf of T-Mobile. We are looking to swap out the existing antennas for newer, 6 to 9. And that's it.
I wasn't sure whether you're actually raising the tower or.
Not at all.
It's there, you can just attach to it
Taking the
above
antennas
everything else.
off, putting brand new ones on, equal or lesser size, same exact height,
Okay, great.
just upgrading the tower.
Anybody from the board? Start with Al this time?
No questions.
Questions? Scott?
You look familiar, I think we went
been
down
here-
the, we went
I've
down
been
the
here
road with you
several
pretty
times.
good on the last one.
You gotta be good.
I don't think
We got through it, though.
I don't have any new questions for you, so
Different location.
different location, but I think the same scope of work, basically, in
It
terms
is.
of the replace in kind, right?
It is.
I have no questions.
Joe? Okay. As, do I have no questions? Wes, anything from your perspective?
Nothing from Labella.
Okay, all right. And it is a public hearing, so if there's anyone that has a question for the applicant or any comments? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll move.
Al moves.
Second.
Joe seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing closed. And we do have a draft resolution for this one, which I think we're prepared to go forward with. So, Crown Castle T-Mobile, application 7 SU 2022, whereas the planning board made the following findings of fact. There are 10 of them. Now therefore be it resolved that the application of Janet Spatafor of Crown Castle, site plan entitled Crown Castle T-Mobile Project, located at 795 Old Dutch Road, drawn by Infinity, dated February 9th, 2022, received by the Planning Board August 31st, 2022. Planning Board Special Use Application Number 7 SU22 be approved with the following conditions. Conditions addressed prior to Chairman's signature on the site plan. Item 1 is standard. That's the only condition prior to signature. Ongoing condition is number 1. Standard. Number 2 is also standard building permit. And be it further resolved that the Planning Board Secretary distribute the Planning Board's approval letter. We hear a motion for this resolution. Moves.
Second.
Al seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carried 4-0. You're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Item number 3 is the, I apologize if I pronounce this wrong, the Buntich in-ground pool and septic. Owner Greg Buntich, applicant, is requesting approval to relocate 5 leach lines in the septic leach field to provide more space to install a 16-foot by 40-foot in-ground pool. Good
That's
evening.
correct. Yep, I'm Greg Buntich. Good evening. Thanks for having us here tonight. I also have Pete Gorman from Marathon Engineering, just to answer any of the septic relocation questions, if you guys have it. So, yeah, we're, do you guys have the plan up there?
We do.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So we took pretty good effort to get all the measurements on there and assure that we're adequate distance away from the leach lines and the property lines and all those different types of things.
So if you could just explain the site and the challenges for
Sure.
those.
So leach field was kind of centralized to the yard. No,
So, do you have a laser right
I
there?
don't. Oh, yeah.
There you go.
So it was, or is, over here.
Uh-huh.
We probably could have snuck a pool in this way, but we didn't want to get too close to that property line. So the idea is just to move 5 of the leach lines over on this side, keep 2 of the existing ones, and which creates quite a bit more area there for the pool.
Okay. Is that all hardscape around the pool within the fencing
Yeah.
eventually?
Yep, so that'll be probably next spring, but yeah, then include that in that letter of intent there.
Mhm.
So, little walk or patio here, and then just a kind of a stone walkway out to the pool area. And then I also included in the letter there, possible, just a little enclosure for the filter and heater, just like a mini shed type thing.
I think that the septic tank is up here, correct?
Septic will be, yes, here.
And
then-
you're retaining that and rerouting to the new leach field from there? Is that what I'm?
No, so, no, putting in the new septic tank and then, just to give us a little more room here in case we want to put a patio there.
Ah, okay.
So, but yes, where it was currently, would probably have been okay, but the recommendation from a lot of the people we talked to was give yourself a little more area there so that you can use that for patio or, walkway, that type of thing, so I don't cover that at all.
So you're putting a new tank in?
Yeah, so abandon the old one.
Is there a reason why you wouldn't put it near the leach field on the, downhill side? Where everything flows there?
Just because of some of the, again, like if we were to put the patio or any type of walkway over there, we don't want to go over the septic tank. And it seemed to be easier, when we talked to the engineering company, just to put it there and connect it and bring it down. I also consulted the builder on that, and that's where he suggested to put it. So,
Okay. Al, any questions?
No, no questions.
Yeah?
No, I don't think so.
No?
Is it flat surface grass now, pretty much?
yeah, yep. It's
Will
pretty
you be doing any sort of landscaping eventually around?
possibly closer to the house, but the hardscape would go kind of leading out to the pool. You mean as far as like trees or shrubs or that type of stuff for landscape? Maybe down the road. That's not in the
Okay.
budget this year. But yeah, definitely near the house. So we've kind of waited on doing something around the house, up against the house there, and we'll probably have some plant or just mulch and things like that. So pretty basic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wes, any comments?
Yeah, three quick comments, one of which Marathon might be able to address.
Sure.
With regard to the relocation of some of the leach lines, is there a minimum separation distance between the leach line and the side lot line? And are you meeting that requirement if there is one?
Yeah, Pete Gorman, Marathon Engineering. Yeah, it's 10-foot separation from your side lot line. The way we're showing it right now is 10.3 feet.
Okay, perfect. And then I guess maybe there's one more for you as well. The version of the plan that I was looking at, it was a little bit hard to read. Is there a diversion swale like around the top side of the? leach?
Yeah, I think we got a full-size version here. So we got a diversionary swale up here.
Okay.
That's actually existing. It's in there for the way the system is now.
Got
So the
it.
contractor's gonna have to pull that down a little closer to get it outside the fence line, but we are showing that.
All right, perfect. And then the last comment is just to add a north arrow and a signature block on the plan for,
Not a problem.
that'll be it.
We could get that, Pete was saying we could get that last one, the arrow and the signature block over to you. We could do that tomorrow and get it over.
Yeah.
Okay, this actually is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the public that has any questions for the applicant or the board? Seeing or hearing none, entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move to close the public
Oh,
hearing.
makes a motion.
Second.
Pat seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Carried 4-0. So, unless there's any other questions from the board or the engineer, I think we've got a resolution we can move forward with. I think everyone's pretty satisfied with it.
Okay,
So-
great. Thank you very much.
So I'll read the resolution. This is for the Buntich in-ground pool and septic system relocation, application 28 SP 2022. Whereas the planning board made the following findings of fact, and there are 7 of them, and the date on the letter, Wes, from Labella on number 7?
October 12th.
12th, okay. Thanks. Whereas the Town of Victor Planning Board reviewed the unlisted action on October 12th, 2022, and it identified no significant impacts. Therefore, be it resolved that the project Buntich in-ground pool and septic will not have a significant impact on the environment, and a negative declaration be prepared. And be it further resolved that the application of Greg Buntich, site plan entitled Buntich in-ground pool and septic located in the limited development district, received by the Planning Board September 21st, 2022, Planning Board application 28 SP 2022 be approved with the following conditions. Condition 1 is standard. Condition 2, that the comments from Labella Associates dated October 12th, 2022 be addressed. Ongoing conditions, that site plan comply with Town of Victor design and construction standards for land development, including section 4. Number 2, the building permit be obtained for the pool prior to installation, that a building permit be obtained for the septic modification. And be it further resolved that the planning board secretary distribute the planning board's approval letter. So on that draft resolution, do I hear a motion?
I'll move.
Al moves.
Second.
Scott seconds. All in favor? Aye. Carried 4-0.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item number 4, Valvoline. Applicant is requesting approval to demolish the existing building formerly Denny's Restaurant and build a 2,080 square foot Valvoline instant oil change. And this application is for 7503 Main Street in County Route 42, Fishers. Good evening.
Good evening. My name's Todd Markovich. This is Sky Hansen. We are from APD Engineering, and here tonight to present the proposed Valvoline instant oil change facility. The we're here tonight seeking site plan approval as well as a parking waiver. We are not proposing the required number of stalls per the zoning ordinance. We're a little bit shy of that. So again, that's the reason we are here this evening. As most of you know, the site is located at the southwest corner of Main Street Fishers and Route 96. It's approximately 1.4 acres in size, zoned commercial. And again, as many of you know, it's former home to Denny's restaurant. That building has been vacant for some time now. And again, we are looking to reuse that. Thank you very much. So what you see in front of you here and on the screen as well is just basically an aerial kind of overlay of the existing conditions with the proposed conditions superimposed, just so you can get a better idea of the magnitude of the project in relation to the existing site. Again, the scope will include the raising and rebuilding of the building. We'll remove basically all of the existing asphalt there. Again, taking down the building. The intent would be to reuse a number of the utility infrastructure, drainage, things of that nature. So with that, I'll turn over this presentation to Sky. She will kind of go through some of the proposed features of the building and the site, and then we'll talk a little bit about the building itself, and certainly can answer your questions, or we can also go through some of the comments. There's been a number of agency comments. I know not all of them have been received. So if the board would like, we can kind of walk through the ones we have received and our tentative responses.
Good evening, Sky Hansen, APD Engineering. Up on the screen, you can see the demo plan. We are removing the existing Denny's and all the asphalt. We're replacing all the asphalt on site. We are reusing some of the utilities. We're reusing the water, sewer, stormwater. We're reusing the existing detention pond across the access road. And you can see from this exhibit here, we are decreasing the impervious area by, I believe it's 28%. So it's a lot of area that, we don't have to redesign this detention pond for. We can reuse that and not have an issue. The actual Valvoline building is 2,080 square feet. It has 3 service bays, 11 parking spaces, which are going to be used for just employees. You do not get out of your car at this site. I'm sure you all have been to a Valvoline at some point. You go in, 15 minutes max service. People are in the basement working on your car. It's in and out site, so we don't need all that parking.
I included all those plans that you had sent me, so she has them if you want them.
Okay, yep. So this is the landscaping plan. So we are going to have a lot more lawn area, and we need landscaping to fill that. So we had a landscape architect design a landscaping plan. And with that, we are removing some trees that are not in good condition, invasive species, all in that area.
Yeah, and again, I think one of certainly the positive aspects of this particular development is the reduction in the impervious, as Sky mentioned. It's not often we see projects that, you do see reuses, but in many circumstances, you don't see reuses that actually provide a benefit. In this case, not only to the aesthetics of the area and kind of the entrance to the town, but also obviously with the stormwater quantity and quality itself as well. And as Sky mentioned, the intent would be we would utilize all the existing stormwater infrastructure. Obviously, the pond was built to accommodate the amount of impervious that's there today, which will be reduced. Obviously, the board is also aware of the application, which I understand may be fully approved at this point in time of the Delta Sonic. We are in possession of those plans. Our work really stops before their work begins, but we have kind of coordinated some of those aspects to make sure that, we have a combined project that makes sense. Again, as Sky mentioned, with the added landscaping or the added green space, we've done a significant amount of landscaping on the site. Obviously, some of the existing landscaping that's there will be ripped out or trimmed up and made look nice again. Again, utility-wise, we're basically looking to reuse the existing mains. We'd probably tap in with new services just to make sure they are clean and ready to go. The facility itself, the building itself, has 3 service bays. Again, pretty typical if you've seen this type of building. And again, as Sky mentioned, you drive in, you have your work done, and then you drive out. As shown on our site plan, we are showing 9 vehicles queued up outside of the building. Obviously, 3 more vehicles can be within the building itself. Traffic-wise, I don't know if this board had anticipated as part of Delta Sonic kind of the overall traffic in the area, which I know is obviously somewhat of a concern, but in this case, we're looking at probably 5 to 10 vehicles max per hour. So it's not a significant traffic generator, any more than the Denny's would have been at that point in time. With respect to the building, you should have received, hopefully, colored elevations as part of your package. We have a set of those here tonight. You can see there's a lot of tans and browns that have been incorporated in the building. The logo itself is red, white, and blue. We're proposing 3 building signs, 1 on each of the main facades. One of the comments in the comment letters actually was referring to that. We won't be making the signage application ourselves. The sign vendor and/or Valvoline will do that at a later point in time, but again, wanted to kind of show you what we're looking at. We do also have some sample boards here. If the board would like, we can certainly pass those around, but again, red, white, and blues, very tan, kind of monotone building, and in our opinion, would fit in very well with kind of the aesthetics of the site. That being said, I don't know if there's any specific questions the board may have.
Start with Joe.
I've got a few just at first glance. I like the renderings of the building. I think that's a great start, good colors. I'm also happy that you're removing the invasive species, the burning bushes and the Phragmites. And I noticed you're going to remove them by hand methods only. And I've been removing by hand methods on some of my properties, and they come right back. So how do you eradicate them long term?
Well, I guess, this would be part of the maintenance of the overall property, no different than, I know the town has obviously criteria for stormwater maintenance, and, it's just something that's going to have to be maintained, and the owner will have to be aware. And again, if the board, or if that's not being done, obviously, I
was hoping you'd have a secret that would help me.
I don't have a secret, other than you can come knock on our door. We're about, half a mile down the street, and we can all get out there one Saturday and just do it together.
Cool. So what kind of traffic counts are you anticipating?
Again, not very high traffic counts. Again, the max vehicles per hour is somewhere between 5 and 10. So again, we're not really looking to generate a ton of traffic. It's kind of spread throughout the day. Their typical hours of operation, we're not exactly sure for this facility, but typically they're looking at an 8 a.m. till 7 p.m. So they'll get a decent amount of traffic early morning. They'll get a decent amount of traffic around the lunch hour, and then as kind of at the end of the day as well.
So as I'm approaching from either direction on Route 96, I'm going to see some sort of signage on the buildings, but it's not going to be necessarily clear to me how I'm going to get in there. And it would be sort of instinctive to come up Main Street Fishers and try to come in, and as we know, that's a right in and right out. So how are we going to indicate to folks that they get to your property? Because they're going to have to access probably primarily from Route 96. I imagine that would be the main traffic. I've seen signage up by the old Alex and Ani, where it's a low-profile sign, and it lists all the businesses that are in that little complex. I'm curious if you've given any thought to how people are going to know how to get into your business.
We, have given it some thought. I mean, obviously, we're going to have signage, so they will know it's there. As you mentioned, with the new proposed right in, right out, that does present somewhat of a challenge to get any traffic from entering in that direction. So, I think through the use of signs would be the best, mechanism. I think of Valvoline, no different than, you know, maybe the Panera up the road. It'll take some getting used to. I think once customers have been there once, they'll understand how to do it. I don't think I think the clientele would be somebody who's used to, you know, they know where the Valvoline is, they know how to do it. You're not really grabbing too many individuals that are going to pass by on a first-time basis, but
I guess my thought is it's not intuitive to turn in by Taco Bell to come to Valvoline.
it's, you're passing out the building, and so it feels a little strange. But, you know, again, we can work to maybe put some small ground signs or something to kind of help direct that traffic.
That's all I have at this point, thanks.
Scott?
I guess one thing that I notice about this particular site in Victor is it's just high visibility at that corner. I agree with Joe's comment on signage as well. So I was wondering, as with Delta Sonic, a request we made of them was to show us a view simulation with your landscaping included. In other words, a drawing similar to this, but with the landscaping that you've proposed to show us how it's going to look both in the daytime and the nighttime, if that's possible within your toolbox at your firm.
I'm sure we can, come up with something to give you guys a view. You're suggesting perhaps probably from 96, not necessarily from Main Street Fishers, I assume?
Well, whatever you could give us that would help us understand the visual result of this project, I think that would be very helpful. I do agree that reduction of the pavement is a good thing, and I assume that's why you're indicating that you need a parking waiver, because you simply don't need the parking. Is that a correct assumption?
Yeah, I mean, again, go back 10 years, and we've done a lot of Walmarts, and it was all about get as much parking as you can, right? The world's kind of changed. Everyone's trying to be a little bit more environmentally conscious, and actually just the way the people operate now is different. So in this case, I think Sky mentioned, their typical shift has about 8 employees. So the goal would be to just have enough spaces for the employees. There's no reason for a customer to exit the vehicle. They stay in the vehicle in the queue, they go through the building, and then they leave. There's no products for sale inside the building. So, in our case, why spend the money to pay for parking that's not going to be used, as well as, again, why, do a detriment to the environment? Feel like it's the best solution for all of us, understanding that obviously the code is what it is. But we would hope that the board would understand the advantage of approaching it this way.
I think it makes sense for the waiver that you're requesting. It makes a lot of sense. So I have no more questions.
No?
It's nice to see redevelopment. It's been a bit of an eyesore the last couple of years. I like the reduction in impervious surface. The one question though I had for the board, I know we seriously talked about a right-in, right-out, but I wasn't sure if that's where we landed, because I think the owner of this parcel had challenged that thinking, and I just don't remember if we had finalized that as the solution or not. You recall?
Yep, my recollection is that the right-in, right-out was solidified, and that was in part due to the county DPW comments, right? They were requiring that, and that was, I think Jennifer, the town's traffic consultant from CPL, concurred with that. And there was a question raised by a representative of the property owner, as they wanted to be sure that they had legal access to the landlocked, well, it's not really a landlocked parcel, but there was no curb cut onto 96 for this parcel. So as part of that previous approval for Delta Sonic, we assured that that developer provided an access easement to this parcel, so that they could access this parcel both via County Road 42 as well as New York State Route 96. So that satisfied this property owner.
Very good. So I am with Joe, though. I think, thinking through the directional signage to steer your tenant or your customers to that, it won't be intuitively obvious to navigate through the Delta Sonic, how to get there. So I think that's something that needs to be contemplated.
Yep.
No.
Okay. Les, anything else?
So we are still working on our town engineer comments. We'll have those out shortly for you. I was wondering if maybe we could get the site plan up on the screen. I guess maybe the aerial that kind of has that shaded overlay. Yeah, maybe that one. So question for Todd, and I definitely appreciate that the proposed configuration and site represents a 28% reduction in impervious surface. I think that's a really good thing. Just curious for maybe the rationale, when someone were to exit the building on this side, what's the rationale for providing access to the left as well as to the right? For example, is there a benefit to, maybe just having those people go left out or just right out and even have more pervious surface in lieu of the pavement?
I think when we originally put this together, I mean, obviously, access and maneuverability is always a concern on a commercial type of site. So the original thought process was, if you've got a couple vehicles all coming out at the same time, they've got some options to move back and forth. So I'd say that's probably the strongest argument of why we ended up doing it the way we did. Obviously, if we have a full access to the front of the building too, from an emergency standpoint, it gives a little bit more ease to circulate that site. I guess if you're asking, would Valvoline consider perhaps limiting to one direction, adding more green spaces, I assume kind of what you're getting at?
Possibly. I don't know that it's required in this instance, but just kind of thinking outside of the box here. There's no requirement in town code, but just thinking.
I mean, we could look at that option.
It might not make sense, but I just wanted to ask the
We'll
question.
explore that, and if it's one of your comments, we'll certainly, have a dialogue with you and kind of come to some conclusion.
Okay, all right. Beyond that, I just wanted to be sure that, or just ask the planning board to just present the question to them. And I don't think that Labella has any preference either way or any design considerations in terms of orientation of the building. So in this particular configuration, the three bays where you exit the Valvoline facility face New York State Route 96. Are you satisfied with that orientation versus an orientation that might have those bays facing County Road 42 or Main Street Fishers? Again, we don't have a preference, but just wanted to bring that up to you. And with regard to the architecture, I thought initially when Valvoline came for a pre-application conference with town staff, I had mentioned that, this particular look, it doesn't look like it has changed much, but it seemed to fit the bill for what the overlay district requires. Maybe the signs above the bays at the entrance, with the Valvoline colors, maybe that's something that could be toned down if the planning board were interested in doing that. I'll defer that to them. Certainly, this is a very prominent corner in the town of Victor, as you know, because you work right around the corner. You're right there. And there's a significant structure across the street, right? The Parks Building at the Royal Car Wash, and they did a nice job with the architecture there. I don't think there's anything wrong with this. Could certainly be some additional thought put into architecture. For example, and we're not in the High Street or Historic Overlay District, but for example, a farm type structure like a barn, that sort of thing that they did at North Face or the New York Beer Project.
Mm-hmm.
A very interesting architecture for another prominent corner up there. But with that, I'll just kind of conclude my vocal remarks at this point, and we'll get our engineering comments to you soon.
Okay. If I could just add the one comment Wes made there about the North Face building too, and obviously I think those are beautiful buildings. I guess I just don't know how that would fit necessarily with, with the Burger King and the Planet Fitness and the Chili's. I'm just, again, trying to envision to have something that would work well. Again, by the way, we're not the architects. Greenberg Farrow is the architects and certainly can work with the board or consultants, Labella, as needed as well.
So Wes was reading my mind, I think, or at least we're of similar approach to this. My comments would have been more architectural and landscape oriented. I'll start with signs. I believe that you're only allowed one sign per road. So since you're on a corner, you can have two signs on the building. So I would presume that the front and side signs on the cupola, I guess, would be acceptable, but the third sign in the back or front, I'm not sure, is that the back elevation, the exterior number 1? I don't know,
Rear.
is that the rear elevation? Yeah,
Yep, it's there.
yeah. So that, and since the front doesn't have those red Valvoline logos on it, that's, that's the side facing, I think elevation 3, that faces 96, right, in your plan?
Yep.
I would honestly prefer the building go east-west, not north-south, as it were. To have those doors open all summer, for cars coming in and out, is not something that is part of what I would say the spirit of the architectural overlay district of Route 96. And if you look at the Royal Car Wash, the historic building right next to it, as Wes alluded to, the Wendy's down the street is all brick. The new car wash, Delta Sonic, has advanced their design to our comments, meaning they've got a lot of brick and a lot of other materials that they reduce the amount of glass, even though that's a significant amount of glass on that building or those buildings. But they stepped up their architecture to fit the architectural overlay district. So I would expect something a little more than just a EFS type of structure on a facade on above. I don't even know what the elevation materials are below the middle of the door, I guess. Is that supposed to be brick, or is it brick look, or can you tell me what that is? Or the dark brown, I guess? On the,
You're referring to kind
Yeah,
of the lower,
right.
yeah, I believe that's a brick finish, it's a brick wainscot.
so is it actually brick, or is it?
I would have to actually, talk with them, no, I believe it's just a,
Mhm.
some type of facade.
Yeah. So I know that the Planet Fitness is just a really plain Jane kind of box building, but that was built years ago before we had a more enhanced architectural code, which is something that I worked on 15 years ago at least. So I think something more could be done with the EFS portion of this building to have it look a little more historic. And I don't know, Mark Kukufka, did he look at that?
So he did look at this design, and he did provide a comment letter. He didn't have a whole lot to say. In my conversation with Mark Kukufka from Labella Associates, he's the architectural consultant, as you know, he felt that what was proposed seems to fit pretty well within the overlay district guidelines that are found in the zoning regulation itself. There wasn't a whole lot to hold them to for any historic integrity or historic mimicking of because we're not in the High Street Extension area.
Yeah, that's the Valentine Historic District.
Yeah, there's more regulations
Yeah, for sure.
in that area.
And I would agree with Mark's assessment that it meets the spirit of the overlay district because it's got pitched roofs and some brick on the lower part of it. But I'm worried about signage, and so my biggest thing is the garage doors looking out at 96. And even if it was impossible to turn the building the other way, I would put a significant amount of landscaping in front of it to block the view of those doors. But I would go along with that. I would make that same comment. If you flip the building 90 degrees, I would put some towards Main Street, Fishers, and the opposite side as well. So,
What about, again, kind of piggybacking off of that option, if there was something, even a bermed up kind of, something kind of bermed up with some nice row of
we
whatever,
did some
evergreens or-
berming on this, what is it, City Tavern up the road, towards,
Panera.
what's the name of
By
that city?
McDonald's.
Yeah, just past McDonald's.
Right.
Yeah, there's a pretty good amount of grass landscape in front of it. There's a detention pond, but then there's some berming and some landscaping in pockets, I guess, grouped trees and things like that. Doesn't have to be trees blanketing the building, but I think we found over time that the grouped landscaping works out well, and you still get some building visibility, but you also, it tends to break up the corridor and allow for some screening. So I would ask that you look at, one, reorient the building in the opposite direction, and two, wherever the garage doors end up, have some strategic clusters of trees, deciduous and/or evergreens, placed in such a way that it sort of breaks up the long view of that building. So, and then signage is just, I think you get two signs, one on either corner of that building tower. I would lose the one in the back. And as far as signage goes, directional or otherwise, that's something you'd want to look at to say, hey, go down 96, take a right. I could see having a little arrow kind of sign, ground mounted, something above the snow.
It's just like the McDonald's or any of
Yeah.
the other ones that have the small little kind of signs pointing the direction,
So
sure.
look at that to see how you can better direct or at least help people see where to go. Like somebody said, that they'll probably get used to it after a while, but yeah, I guess that would be the extent of the signage, I would say. Other than that, I mean, colors, muted tones, or everything, you've hit those pretty well. So those would be my comments, I think.
Yeah, I think the last thing, Joe, is I was looking at a little more detail is the lighting plan.
Okay, good point. What do you have for a lighting plan? Is it,
So I don't know if, actually,
And I see it calls out light poles, but it doesn't go much beyond that as far as the lighting type,
the spec, or,
illumination.
we can certainly provide cut sheets if they weren't part of the package, I apologize, and/or give a, detail, but basically it's the typical new LEDs, type thin fixtures, so it's nothing that would be, it's not the old school, it's kind of the new school look, so certainly an improvement for what's there now.
How tall are the light poles that you're planning?
I don't recall off the top of my head.
If I remember, they were 22 feet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sounds right.
that makes,
And
that makes sense.
I
yeah.
think I do recall seeing some details about the light fixtures and that the bug grading, the U, it was 0, so I think they're all full cutoff fixtures from what I recall.
Yeah, and obviously, we're only looking to light up the area that's pertinent to us, so, we're not really close to the property lines, so there's no spillage anticipated there.
You're basically lighting the
that's
perimeter towards the building, is that what I'm?
So,
There is a lighting plan in this.
Found it.
Okay.
I was trying to go through on my laptop here. It's
C
hard to see.
8.0.
if you can kind of see here, we've got a couple of lights out in this area, one light here, a couple out here, there's none out front, there's some building type fixtures as well. So the intent would be really the building, and really a lot of it's for security purposes, with parking and garbage areas and things like that, just to make sure.
I assume hours of operation are into the evening, but not
So
too late?
typically, again, 8 AM, 7 PM.
Okay.
That may slightly vary depending on, they're still trying to figure that component out.
So typically, we'd have any utility or lighting poles outside of the building wouldn't really be relied on as security so much as the wall packs or direct signage, or lighting rather.
Yeah, I mean, the wall packs on this side of the building don't really do a lot of justice for some of the parking here. So again, we're trying to,
Okay.
provide some of that. And, we do want the drive lanes lit somewhat.
But I guess what I'm talking about is after hours. Once everybody's gone, what's left? So take a look and see what you really need versus leaving them all on.
Yeah, and that's a good question. I have not talked to Valvoline. I don't know if they keep some on for security purposes, dim them halfway, or if they are lights out. I can
Yeah.
find out,
I
though.
would expect they'd want a few of them on anyway, but
I will find out.
keep that in mind as you're going through your planning stage there. I guess I can open this up to the public. Had a good conversation. Does anyone have any questions or comments for the board or the applicant? If you have one, come on up. Name, residence.
I am Tom Orr, 1193 Strong Road. I just have a couple of quick questions. This looks like it's the same traffic pattern in and out as Denny's, correct?
Yeah, we'll go to the same access road.
Okay. I've been to Denny's a million times, and I never had a single problem with that. However, the thought of going out onto 96 from Denny's scares the crap out of me. And I think even thinking about getting a connection out to 96 is a huge mistake.
Yeah, they're not doing that.
Okay, the other question is, I was really surprised to hear that you never get out of your car. How does anybody know that? I wouldn't know that. I pulled in
Business
there to get
plan,
my
I
oil
don't know.
change, I wouldn't know that.
Well, it's
You
like
should-
going to New Jersey and getting gas. You can't get out of your car there either.
Really?
Yeah, they pump it for you.
Sure, they tell you you
Yeah,
can't get out of your car.
right. If you drive
Pull in
around,
there.
yeah.
Okay, then there has to be somebody or something to say that, stay in your car.
The employees do.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Pretty good about that, I'm sure. Thank you. Any other comments from the public? I don't think we need to keep the public hearing open.
I would leave the public hearing open. Based on some of the comments tonight, there might be some design change.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine. We can do that. All right. Unless there's anything else from the board, I think we're all set. There's no action being taken tonight, so you guys are all set?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, as I said earlier in the meeting, the item number 5 is has been removed from the agenda. So final item tonight is 1086 Strong Road subdivision. I see Doug is here. I do want to bring up, Doug, that I didn't say this at the last meeting when you got there, but Babette started the meeting because she had to leave early. She started off at the meeting and she felt that the historic building on that corner really needs to be maintained. And she's concerned that the existing house could go into severe disrepair if it's left unnoted.
With the developer moving to South Carolina, but I will pass it on. Of course, it's only their own benefit to get on it before you get more damage to the house, so I will
So
certainly.
the interest is to save the building, not to demolish it as part of a future.
Yeah, no, I know there's no intention of that.
Okay,
They do want to save the building. It's not in a historic district, but as Babette pointed out, it certainly has a pretty unique historic history.
sure.
So, and there's certainly no intent of
Nope.
demolishing it, but it does need maintenance.
Yes.
You are correct.
Thank you for acknowledging that, and I'm sure Babette will be pleased to
Yeah.
hear that as well. So with that, I think you had some things you were looking at after our last meeting,
Yeah.
so if you want to jump into that, Doug?
Yep, can you bring up the rendering? Thank you. So, I talked to the client about the comments from the last meeting, and I stole the pointer last time, but I brought it back. I don't see it here.
I have one, and
Oh, there it is. I kicked it on the ground.
Lisa will be happy that you,
did take it.
I stuck it back in. So after talking to my client after the last meeting, Joe had a comment about putting a house over on this side.
I think my comment was
To put it
spread them
back.
out a little bit more, if they were big
Yep.
lots, and it sounds like you've addressed it.
So what we decided to do is there was 4 lots here.
Yep.
We now have 3 lots. So those 3 lots go from 150-foot wide to 200-foot wide. And we added this lot over here, and then now these 3 lots are about 225-foot wide. So I think that, was sort of to address many of the comments that area was sort of too congested. So looking at it now, if you want to think of it this way, you really won't have any visibility of the houses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe a little bit of visibility of this one. There is existing vegetation here, that's why you're not seeing the landscaping there. In these 3, you may have a little bit of visibility. They're uphill, maybe looking down the driveway, something like that, but we do still plan to put buffer plantings in all along the front where there isn't any existing plantings. So that's still part of the plan. The other thing we did, there was a discussion, and I think it was a good one, about houses on Strong Road and getting those pushed back from the road that's a little more in character with the other houses, although they're fairly close across the road. But I think it's a better visual situation and more in keeping with the overall. So we moved those back, so they're now about 130 feet back from the edge of pavement. These three, we did change the last time. Those stay the same. Couple more specifics. Now can also save, with these wider lots, save about a 40-foot strip of the existing vegetation along this side. I expanded the type A easement, the no-touch easement, to include some of the meadow grass or the pasture grasses in here. And in here, there's, this is a big area down in here. So those areas will preserve some of that meadow pasture grasses that Joe brought up before. I've also included, and it's not really visible on this plan, but included some berming in some strategic locations and mainly in places where I could. Sort of a soft berm. It's like 4-to-1. It's not a steep berm. And the thought there is that was sort of mimicking sort of the rolling nature of the property, and it also provides somewhat of a visual buffer. There'll be some berming in here, over here. This area, there's not much I can do with. We just have to do some dense plantings along the road for those. So I think, we're striving to get closer to that sort of character of the neighborhood issue that's been coming up with the neighbors pretty frequently here. The other thing that struck me is I was saying before, we'd make these a type A easement, sort of the do not touch easement, but I rethought that and said, well, why don't we just leave them as type B easements and just have a provision in there where you couldn't cut down without replacing trees. So what that would do, if it's type B, you can go in there, you can do some more landscaping, you can add trees, you could cut the lawn, and those type of things that would be more applicable to front yard type areas. So the thought was change that, and there is a mistake on the plan. This was still shown as a type A, but I want to make that type B as well. But then you have that no tree removal provision in the type B as it relates to buffer plantings. I think that really is the crux of it. It's pretty straightforward, but I do believe, there's a big difference here with the extra 50 foot on each of those lots. The berming will make a nice visual entrance into the property. You will see a little mounding that sort of replicates some of the drumlin mounding that's in the back. And the additional landscaping for buffering and the protection of the landscaping. So you're really not going to see these houses. Very little visibility of these houses, if any. There's a limit to what I can do in here. There's the septic systems in the front and so on. You probably have some visibility of these three houses, but they will have trees in front of them as well, and the berming that I was talking about. So I think that's it in a nutshell.
So I noticed that you lined up the backs of the properties, I'll call them 4, 5, and 6 in the middle of everything. I don't know if that's the numbers or not, but instead of having them, offset with, you made a straight line for the conservation easement across the backs of those, so.
Oh, yeah, you asked me to
Yeah.
do that, yes.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's much more efficient and
Sure.
honestly easier for them to maintain and to
Yeah.
understand where the limits are
Yeah.
for different types.
Exactly.
of
So
easements.
this is the type B easement, and then back here is the type A. So that would be where the meadow grasses would remain.
And the front yard of number 4, I'll call it, so starting left
This
is
one?
number 1, 2, 3, yeah, not that one. There's a line there that sort of surrounds the driveway. What is that in the front yard? The trapezoid, I guess. There's trees and.
This?
Just to the left of it, actually. The front piece.
Here?
Yes,
There will be berming in here and trees.
okay.
Oh, that line? That's the easement line.
Or the type
Or
B.
type B easement.
Okay, all right,
Yeah, it's, you're talking about this line right here, I believe.
yes.
It's kind of hard to see, but. So, I think to the neighbor's credit, I think the plan's improved. I like it better. Costs quite a lot more money, but the client's willing to do it, and I think it is, it's a nice plan.
Personally, I asked you to do something, you came back with a plan that sort of helps meet my expectation, is what I asked you for, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to open it up to the board at the moment. Joe, do you have any comments or questions?
I like most of what you did on Taylor Road. I am disappointed to see a third lot on Strong Road. I'd be happier with 10 houses instead of 11. Talking about, I'd like to discuss the easements along Taylor Road.
Yep.
And the concept, I like the visual buffer. I think that works. However, with deciduous trees, that visual buffer only works from May till mid-November.
Sure.
And you were going to put some trees in as well to
Yeah.
build
there-
up that buffer?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of trees there. There's some scattered ones here and there. But in this area, and then over here, there's some trees. But this area in here is fairly open. There's some scattered trees in here with, we're augmenting that. But this will also be on a mound.
Because what's going to happen is, the way that's written,
But the other thing I should point out with these lots here, right from the edge of the road, as you get into the property, the topography goes up at a pretty steep slope. So there's a visual buffer by the topography itself, all the way through here, from here to here. So these trees would actually be on top of that. So it's not just the deciduous trees, it's the berming.
with the way it's written now, it says you're proposing that no removal without replacement.
Yeah,
I think that language would need to be stronger.
Okay.
Because that's going to be mowed between the trees.
Yep.
And the visual buffer is going to be reduced by virtue of probably clearing any unwanted bushes. The trees will remain the way it's written. So I think there needs to be
Yeah.
stronger language to preserve that
yeah,
buffer.
my intent there was only to replace dead.
I'd love to finish.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would like the homeowner to be obligated to preserve that. So the language, I'd like to see a little bit stronger in terms of what can go on.
Yeah.
And still give them the leeway to add landscaping or whatever without removing that buffer to any great degree. So for instance, a good-sized deciduous tree could start to decay, and they want it removed and put a sapling in place, so the buffer's kind of shot. So
Gotcha.
that's kind of the language I'd be looking for. Relative to the type A easements, I agree with your intent to fully restrict the use of the lands. Again, the language needs to be stronger if we're going to preserve the character of the land. Not only live vegetation shouldn't be removed, but dead vegetation shouldn't be as well. So going in there cutting firewood or whatever, I think that language should be there. I think we should restrict the use of even taking your long tractor deck. There are no motor vehicles, no dirt bikes, no quads.
Sure.
Things like that. I would suggest that if there's a trail there, they leave it alone, but don't build trails. So if it's going to be restrictive to preserve it, I think we want to have language that does that.
Okay.
So, I agree with your intent. I think it's the language that needs to be flexed a little bit to
Sure.
protect what we're trying to do there. I'm curious about grading plans as well.
Yeah,
'Cause the drumlins are a fabulous feature there, so I would hate to see a lot leveled and a basement put in. I'd rather see the house maybe with a daylight basement, for instance, to preserve that character of the property.
So I had Wes bring up Google Earth views, street views from Taylor Road looking east. If there's a question or an interest in seeing any particular view, Joe, that you wanted to ask about? You can see how the property rises. I think this is the western end. of
Yeah, that's the
parcel.
western end there, yes.
So your first house would be kind of looking straight back from the view here.
Yeah,
I
actually,
believe.
into the tree, in where the trees are, further to the, yeah. So there'll be some trees preserved along the property line, but there will be some impingement into that area, yeah.
Mhm.
And then that's the rising topography we talked about before for the first 3 lots, and then you can see it how it drops down. Right there. And now it's downhill topography. Those trees there are the, it look like a gap with the plantings, that's those trees.
So that'd be on parcel
Pardon me?
4 or 3?
I think it was 4, yep.
Parcel 3, on the new plan, yeah.
And so you can see that the topography right there is transitional, it starts going down, and now there's a valley Joe, right up through there, that goes all the way up through there. It's even more dramatic than what you see there. But that valley is where we either had to put the houses in front of the valley or behind it. So as you come down here further, you'll start to see, it's not real obvious, but the road grade goes up to where that tree is.
Yep.
And then it drops down. That's what I was talking about before.
And this is
And I am
parcels.
doing some berming in this area, particular area where you are right now.
Yeah, so you got parcels 4, 5, and 6 in this area, and so you
Uh-huh.
have to go across the dip and back up to get to where those houses will be.
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct. But that is a 4 to 6 foot rise. You can see it right there. Yeah, that right there.
Mhm.
That rises up. And that continues down in here too. Not real obvious. Well, I'm pretty sure it does. I thought it continued all the way down. Maybe I'm wrong. But in these areas here is where I'll be doing some berming.
Mhm. But rolling hills, I mean, you've got
Yeah, you
places.
can see the hills, how they're sort of rolling in the background. And then, as you get closer to the road in the existing house, there's more trees.
Okay, Joe, I don't know if there was something.
So essentially, in these areas, you'll have some berming and trees planted.
Okay. I was going to comment on the Strong Road section there. You talked about some berming and things. Just be careful we're not making a problem out of sight distance from those driveways, which I'm sure you wouldn't, but, it's.
Yeah, as you can, on the plan, you'll see there's 2 driveways together. Those are right at the crest of where it drops down. And the other one is halfway between the crest and the curve. Yeah, so there's a little bit of a break in grade here. So there's 2 driveways right here, and then the other driveway is halfway between here and here. So it's right in there somewhere.
Oh, I see where you're talking about. Yeah, I have the old plan up on my screen, so it's
Uh-huh.
helpful. Anything else, Joe?
I'm all set,
Questions,
thanks.
Scott?
My other comment is, all the things you're talking about are what would be written into the easement itself. So I don't know, Lisa, if there's a draft of that language we could have and then mark it up, so to speak, or you could mark it up.
There are actually templates for all 3 types of conservation easements.
I can send you that through email.
Yeah,
There's 3 of
yeah,
them.
have you mark it up, really. I mean, why not?
It will go back to the Conservation Board, too.
Sure. So what I was talking about before, now that you got that up, is, preserving some grasslands along in here, in these areas.
Scott?
I guess I just had one question. Doug, you mentioned that the lots are now 225 feet wide along Taylor Road.
Strong Road. Taylor
There's 200? or
200, lots 1, 2, and 3 on Taylor are 200 foot.
200, okay. Is that closer to or equal to approximately the frontage of the houses across the street? looks
It's not as wide as the houses across the street. Those are
Is that probably
probably
like 290 or
250.
something?
You know, that one's wider, obviously. These two are, I don't know, 250-ish maybe. I'm just guessing. I don't have it in front of me. I shouldn't comment without knowing.
That's all I have for now.
Yeah.
Okay. Al?
If you bring
Additional comments?
the rendering back up, you can see the house locations as post the houses on the other side of the road, because the rendering is into the aerial.
It looks closer than it was before.
You see, there's a house there,
Right,
there's a house there, so we're
right.
kind of across there. I can't see, to tell you the truth. I think there's 2 houses here, right? One there and one there. So
Density-
it's
density
getting
looks about the
it's getting
same.
more similar.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't believe it's as wide, though.
Al, you said you're all set?
No
Okay.
comments at this time.
Wes, any other comments?
I don't have comments on the layout, but I'd be happy to follow up on the issue that was brought up at the last meeting regarding the intersection of Taylor Road and Strong Road. I did some research with our transportation folks, our highway engineers, Wade Daly and Tom Miller. So it was brought up, there's concern about the stop sign on Taylor Road and there not being stop signs on Strong Road. So we did a little bit of research, and just wanted to share some information with the planning board. The public may find this to be useful as well, as well as the applicant here. So, multi-way stop control is used where the volume of traffic on the intersecting roads is approximately equal. So I don't have in front of me right now the traffic volumes for each of these roads, but my guess off the top of my head is that maybe the traffic volumes are probably somewhat different on Taylor Road versus Strong Road. So the restrictions on the use of stop signs described in, so this is all from the highway design standards. And there's some guidance that goes along with installing stop signs. And the decision to install multi-way stop control should be based on an engineering study. So that engineering study, it can be done by a number of different parties. And then the criteria shall be considered for the engineering study for a multi-way stop sign installation include A, where traffic control signals are justified, the multi-way stop is an interim measure that can be installed quickly to control traffic while arrangements are being made for the installation of the traffic control signal. That's really not the case in this scenario. B, another criteria mentions 5 or more reported crashes in a 12-month period that are susceptible to correction by a multi-way stop. Currently, I don't have any data on crashes here at the intersection of Taylor Road and Strong Road. As the town engineer, we'd be happy to foil the county to see if we can get information on crash data. Minimum volumes is another criteria that should be considered in the engineering study. That includes the vehicular volume entering the intersection from the major street approaches, the total of both approaches, averages at least 300 vehicles per hour for any 8 hours on an average day.
Per hour.
300
hours?
vehicles per hour
Yeah.
for any 8 hours of an average day. And 2, the combined vehicle, pedestrian, and bicycle volume entering the intersection from the minor street approaches. And in this case, I'm thinking that Taylor Road is maybe the minor street approach and Strong Road may be the major street approach. So the combined vehicular, pedestrian, and bicycle volume entering the intersection from the minor street approach of both approaches averages at least 200 units per hour for the same 8 hours, with an average delay to minor street vehicular traffic of at least 30 seconds per vehicle during the highest hour. And then, but if the 85th percentile approach speed of the major street traffic exceeds 40 miles per hour, the minimum vehicular volume warrants are 70% of the values provided in items 1 and 2. Other criteria that may be considered in an engineering study may include the need to control left turn conflicts. So maybe one of the concepts here is turning left off of Taylor Road to go north on Strong Road. I'm not sure if that constitutes as a left turn conflict. I would have to get maybe our transportation engineers involved in that. Another option is the need to control vehicle pedestrian conflicts near locations that generate high pedestrian volumes. I don't think there are high pedestrian volumes out here. C, locations where a road user, after stopping, cannot see conflicting traffic and is not able to negotiate the intersection unless conflicting cross traffic is also required to stop. And then D, an intersection of two residential neighborhood collector through streets of similar design and operating characteristics where multi-way stop control would improve traffic operational characteristics of the intersection. So that's just a broad brush overview of the multi-way stop applications and what might be considered an engineering study. Given that the proposed traffic volume of this particular project is probably less than 100 vehicle trips in the peak hour, this project alone does not warrant a traffic study. If a traffic study was going to be done, it might be something that the town would do at some point in the future. I also wanted to mention that I remember looking at a subdivision in the vicinity of this intersection a year or two ago at Taylor and Strong Road. I think it was on the east side of Strong Road. And at that time, we had our highway engineer visit the site and take a look at the site distances both to the north and to the south on Strong Road. And I believe, I'm relatively confident that I believe the site distances were adequate in terms of being able to take a left off of Taylor Road and right. That doesn't maybe account for people who might speed on Strong Road, right? It's kind of hard to design for, people who aren't going to obey the speed limit. But that is a concern, right? Whether it's perceived or real. I'm sure that the neighbors in this community have found that there are people who speed along Strong Road. So, but the site distance was adequate there, and I believe also the stopping distance was adequate at that intersection. But that's what I can offer here at this point regarding the intersection.
Wes, it's been over a year now, but we did count traffic at that intersection. So we provided it way back a year ago. So at least you have those volumes for both Strong and Taylor Road at that intersection. It doesn't meet any warrants as far as volumes go. The only things that would be applicable would be the accident. And the site distance is adequate for the posted speed limit, but, I haven't been there a tenth, a thousandth of the time these folks are, but people do go pretty fast on Strong Road, and it's That's I think, is probably the concern for that. They don't follow the speed limit. But these folks could tell you more than me.
Yeah. So I don't look, I think we still would need to, you did provide an updated plan, and is there a perk test that's going to be happening?
Yeah, we if we think that we're pretty good with the plan now, then we've got perk tests scheduled for Saturday.
Okay.
Because we've got the 3 new lots, basically.
Yeah. So we would still need to do our typical
the
preliminary
engineering-
review and provide comments on a
Yeah,
preliminary.
the engineering needs to be updated from what we did before, but we were trying to get the plan sorted out before we spend a ton more money, but, so that's where we're at.
At this point, I don't know how much more we can add to this conversation. The public's seen a new rendition of the site. Maybe it would make some sense for them to allow them to digest it and then make some comments at the next meeting.
You know if the public hearing is still open?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is still open. There's still opportunities to comment. Please take this and absorb it. I'll entertain a question or two if there's one right now. Step up and again, identify yourself, and if you have a question, we may not be able to answer it, but certainly the applicant will.
Tom,
We'll look at it. Go ahead.
I'm R 1193 Strong Road. This whole discussion about the traffic is just stunning me. I am a hardcore analytical. I am data-driven. And none of the data presented here has anything to do with the actual problem there. Have somebody go stand at that intersection with a stopwatch and look south. And do that during rush hour and tell me how long it takes from the time a car first appears coming over that hill to the time it hits that intersection. Unless you're a teenager on a hot car, most people will not have the time to make a decision and pull out onto that road. You're going to pull out on that road and there's an 18-wheeler right on your ass. That is just unacceptable. I'm sorry, this whole conversation was a total waste of time. Do it right. That's the problem. It's the cars coming up strong, they're going twice the speed of sound, and they're right on top of you. No good. One more comment. There was a notation made about how close some of the existing houses on Strong Road were to the road. Well, you might also point out that when most of those houses were built, there were horses racing up and down the road, not 18-wheelers. So it doesn't matter how close those existing houses are to the road when you're trying to figure out what to do with new houses. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe, if I could just chime in again, it sounds to me, as what I'm hearing is that the traffic issue and the speed, that's an existing problem, not a problem that's being posed by the proposed development. So, I think if it is a true concern, I guess this information should be shared with the town board so that they're aware as well.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Bill Kaiser.
Come on up. I'm sorry, Mr. Kaiser. Just step up first so we can hear you in the microphone. Thank you.
I live at 8008 Taylor Road. I have some questions to ask Mr. Eldridge, if I could.
Sure.
What happened to the water main extension on these drawings?
These drawings aren't the utility
All right,
plans.
Doug, you need to,
You can take that separate microphone if
If
you'd
you'd like
like.
to do that.
You just gotta hit the top button.
I've had a virus. I'm reluctant to touch anything,
That's okay. I'll sanitize it.
but, gotta push a button here.
Yep, there's a button.
Hear me?
just push and hold, and when the
Hold
green
it.
light turns on, you'll see it.
Hello?
There you go.
Yeah. These aren't the utility plans. We only provided the graphic in the subdivision plan to try and get the layout issues resolved. So we've got to update the other plans. That's what we were talking about previously. There will be water main extended, yes.
And the developer will pay for those?
Yes, yes.
You know where the water line's coming from, Doug?
It's about from 700 feet or so north of the Taylor Road, Strong Road
So
intersection.
it's an extension of a line that's down.
Extension of the existing,
Strong.
yeah, it was extended with that other subdivision up there,
Okay,
small distance.
right,
We have to bring it about 700 feet just to get to our property and then
and through.
down
Yeah.
both roads.
So we'll go down Taylor Road and down Strong
Yeah,
Road
yeah.
in front of those houses.
Yeah.
South side of the road, Taylor?
Pardon me?
Outside of Taylor Road, I assume?
No, there's room in the right of way.
No, but would the new water line be brought along the south side of Taylor
Oh,
Road?
south side, I'm sorry. Yes, south side.
Thank you.
How will the electricity, the phone, cable, et cetera, be delivered to these houses?
Electricity
Yeah.
from the existing power. It's out there.
Assuming underground, Doug?
Is it underground or poles?
Geez, you know what? Been out there many times. I don't remember seeing poles, but there certainly could be. I don't remember seeing poles on the plan either.
How is the developer planning to transmit the electricity and cable and all of that to the houses?
Yeah, they do a plan in conjunction with RG&E to provide the power to the houses.
But they run from the utility pole lines underground all the way up to each house, correct?
Yeah, there won't be any overhead poles going to the houses, if that was your question.
Well, I'm also concerned about poles along Taylor Road.
There wouldn't be any added poles.
Pardon?
There wouldn't be any poles added.
Okay.
There could be a transformer put on a pole, but unlikely, more than likely, they bring the wiring down and then put a transformer on the ground in a couple different places.
Okay. I notice on your illustration that almost all of the houses have side-loading garages. And a question to you or to the board, I guess, is how binding is that in terms of future development? Does a builder come in and have the option of putting in front-loaded garages, or are they committed to provide side-loaded garages?
I'd be happy to address that question. I think that's a fair question. So the graphic representation that you're seeing on this particular illustration is just that. It's just a representation. So the orientation of the building and the roof line may change. The footprint may change a little bit. Even the whether or not it's going to be a front load or side load garage.
That may change?
So that may change, but generally, so it's important that, right, so this plan, what you see in front of you is going to come with a utility plan, it's going to come with a grading plan, erosion control plan. Largely, the building permit application, when that gets filed, needs to largely conform to what the subdivision plans indicate. So there might be some slight variation, right? The finished floor elevation might vary by a foot, maybe two. Is that fair, Kim? But largely, the grading needs to be the same, and, that provides the home builder and the lot buyer the opportunity to pick their own unique custom home, or, design it the way they would prefer. But, for example, the lot access points, the driveway access points, those are solidified by the subdivision approval, the plan that gets approved here at the planning board. So, in large part, the building permit needs to conform with the subdivision plan, but there might be some minor variation.
What we're looking at here is conceptual, pretty much, right?
That's right.
Yeah, that's correct.
The schematic representation of how the lots would be
These
distributed.
are just rectangles. Houses aren't rectangles, they just, we try to show would generally be the width and the depth for homes in this price range.
But the feature of side loading versus front loading is open to one's discretion, is that right?
Provided that there's not a major change in the grading plan and utility location on the lot, yeah, that's up to discretion in the future.
That surprises me.
The only one I had front-loaded was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what the issue there is, the septic system has to go to the right of that house. So I just didn't have room to do end loading on that one.
Are you referring to lot number 5?
5, yeah. You see the one that has the driveway come straight in?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they still couldn't do an end load, but the house would have to be,
There's no way you could make that a side loaded?
it could be if the house is nearer. I don't know what the house is going to be. When everybody, these are going to be custom homes. So they all get their own architects, and the developer will work with them, and they'll figure out what they want. I like side load because you don't have
So
garages.
Deanna will be selling these lots off to individuals?
Yes, yeah.
Could you give us the location of some of the houses that Mr. Deanna has built?
He's not a home builder.
He was listed as a builder on the first 2 maps last year.
Well, he's the developer. He sells the lots to other home builders.
Okay, do we have any physical evidence of other developments that he's done and how they've turned
I
out?
don't know if he's ever done one, to be honest with you.
Oh, so this is his first rodeo.
I could be wrong. I think he's done some commercial stuff.
Well, he repeatedly talks about, and you repeatedly talk about, upscale luxury million-dollar homes.
Yeah.
And yet nothing is you've given us no evidence of what they will look like.
I don't know what they're going to look like.
Possibly look
I don't know what they're going to look like. The reason I say they're upscale million-dollar homes is there's there's a relationship between the lot price and the house price. You know, you can't buy well, I suppose you could buy a $200,000 lot and put a $200,000 home on
house.
it, but it's not, usually it's like
Well,
it's usually like a 5-to-1 or 4-to-1 ratio.
What do you anticipate the lot price is going to be on these homes?
I would not be, I am not in a position of saying that. I would think they'll be 150 and up, but I don't know. I'm not the developer.
Okay, I guess that's all the questions I had.
Thank you.
I could make my presentation at this point.
Well, we just, how long is do you have, we just gave you 3 or 4 minutes already. Do you have a long presentation, or?
Well, I assume the clock wasn't running when I was asking questions.
Oh, it's- Do you have something to
How
add?
much time do I have?
Take another 3 minutes if you can do it. I'll be generous with that.
Okay, slide 1. Okay, I haven't updated this, and I haven't updated my figures, but the revised plan is still a stark contrast to the rural setting of the existing lots. I haven't done the math to back up my figures here because I just got the revised plan today. But I don't imagine they've deviated much from this. At the last board meeting, the developer stated with an, I quote, eyeball shot on Strong Road, there are about 20 lots that have a similar size and similar width. Slide 2, please. This is a slide of, so here's a picture of the lots on Strong Road as well as throughout Victor, which is published in the Residential Overlay Zoning District Map released on November the 30th, 2019. Residential A in the light green area has a maximum density of 0.33 units per acre. Proposed development is the blue area in the upper left-hand corner. There are hardly any lots in here that are characterized by this strip lot, that the developer is proposing. So Doug also said that he is building upscale luxury homes, and yet we have not seen elevation drawings or photos of homes that convinces us of his argument. It really doesn't matter to me if Doug has built upscale luxury million-dollar homes with narrower lots or shorter setbacks. The bottom line is that this development proposal vagrantly disregards the character of the neighborhood which we residents have come to value. I'm glad he showed that video of along the road because it illustrates the beauty of this area that we've come to value, and this development just vagrantly disregards that. He's also said that the developer needs to build 10 lots because the property was expensive. That's not our problem, and it shouldn't be the problem of the board. I still stand by my analysis that I shared in the last board meeting. If the zoning requirements of 3 lots per acre were applied to buildable land only, 7 new lots would be the maximum in this space. 10 new lots is simply too many. It's overcrowded. So, in conclusion, next slide, please. I'll reiterate my challenge in my last presentation 2 weeks ago. take action to reject the development proposal. Follow the comprehensive plan for the town of Victor. And I quote the 2 points from the conservation plan. Ensure that all elements of Victor's community character valued by its residents are preserved. Clearly, this doesn't do that. Consider how the natural environment, the cultural assets, and the sensory, primarily visual, experience of a place all combined to define the community's essential quality. Just because this plan can be done doesn't mean it should be done. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. How many more are interested in coming before the board this evening? Come on up.
I'm Philip Nelson. I live at 7976 Taylor Road. Three things, if I can remember them. First, the plantings along Taylor Road to screen the lots. They'll be very effective 20 years from now. In the meantime, they're meaningless. Absolutely, totally disregard them, they're meaningless. Second thing, Maura's sitting back here. I haven't discussed this with her. She lives on Strong Road, right across the street from at the top of the hill. And I have sat on her front porch. And on her behalf, she can shoot me down in this if she wants. I would invite you to get a thermos of coffee and go drink it on her front porch. And if you do that, you will have a very good appreciation for what it is that we're all complaining about, what we're trying to preserve. The last thing, the developer is obviously trying to maximize his profits. I don't blame him for that. He's a business person. He's supposed to do that. However, I have a rhetorical question for you. Is it fair for them to optimize their profits at my expense and my neighbor's expense? Please consider that as you make your decision. Thank you.
Just a couple of brief comments. Name's Ken Fenton, 8082 Taylor Road.
Thank you.
First off, if they are going to be bringing water lines down the south side of Taylor, up at where the historic house is, where they would have to dig is a very steep embankment to the backyard of that house. They will have to do significant amounts of dirt moving just to be able to find a place to put that water main. And maybe if they take out that whole corner, you'll be able to get enough visibility so that you don't have accidents at that corner. Right now, it's visibility is the major problem with that corner. Also, another comment, as far as electric along the road, I live at 8082. I get all my power from Honey Falls. So when Victor's out, I have lights. But when Honey Falls is out, the rest of the Taylor Road is out. So it's possible you'd be getting power from two different places with that subdivision, because right there is where the power division is. It's not at the county line, unfortunately. That's why I have a telephone number based out of Honey Falls. But power and telephone come from two different directions on Taylor Road there. Third off, if you take a look at the land, and again, go on to Moore's Front Park and take a look down at that road, you'll find that lots 4 is actually going to be on the side of a hill. 5 and 6 are actually into a natural amphitheater area. So these houses are going to be up and down all over the place. And in some cases, they are going to have to do significant movement of dirt to be able to do it. It seems that this layout, although better than the last one, is still not in character with the land. unless they build these houses into the sides of the berm hills and so forth, it's really not going to fit in with the rest of the landscaping of what's there. If they took advantage of the natural amphitheater that's there and built the houses around it, maybe even not put houses, only put one house at the tail end on the western end of Taylor Road, and don't even put the water line down there, put the line only in the center area where they need to off strong, and dig a well for the last guy on Taylor. That way they wouldn't have to bribe the neighbors across the road with bringing free connections to the water line, which is what they have done in the past. Might make more character for the land that's there. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I think I need to present this.
Come on up. When you say present this, what do you say present? You mean just a piece of information or a presentation we're talking?
Small presentation. I'll stay within your limits.
Okay.
And I apologize for holding you up.
Well, you're not holding us up. It's our
Okay.
job.
All right. I'm Ed Morrell, and I live on the corner of Taylor and Harloff. After the last meeting, I think most of my neighbors on Taylor and Strong felt that the development was almost a done deal. But tonight, I was gratified to see your concerns, especially yours and yours, about the development that's going to replace Denny's, and how careful you were about the neighborhood and how it affected it. And I'm very gratified about that. Any governing body that's involved in safeguarding the people that they represent needs a mission statement, a guide to their decision-making. The U.S. government has one. It's called the Constitution. Does the planning board have a mission statement? I looked it up and I couldn't find one. So I just wanted to talk about that briefly, and I'll get out of your hair. Is your mission statement what the developer, alluded to last week at the very end of the meeting? And that was, as long as the plans are within the zoning code guidelines, they should be accepted. It's my belief that without a formal mission statement, which you may have, but maybe need to look at again, the current board members and future board members have no serious guidelines about residential areas specifically. I also contend that the comprehensive plan does have developed by former board members, by the way, a basis for an extended mission statement. I have a few suggestions, very quick, that are associated with that comprehensive plan. And first of all, the concept of sprawling. Quote, that the preservation and enhancement of the town's aesthetic qualities and prevention of inefficient and unattractive sprawling development as a primary goal. That should be a primary goal in a mission statement. Stop the sprawling. 2, as stated in the plan, in index number 9, the maximum yield. The maximum number of developmental units that a given parcel might support, and whether that number is lower than the maximum permitted in the zoning code, is a determination that must take into account the unique characteristics of that site. It's my understanding or my belief that the Ott property and other properties similar to it are in a different category. One of the goals of the CP, comprehensive plan, from section 5.3 is to promote development that has a low impact on the environment and maintains, quote, the character of the community. It also states the manner in which the present system of open space set-asides applies equally to all parcels, rather. Okay. The comprehensive plan also cites, recognizes the planning board right to discretionary decision-making. The proposal addresses another problem in the CP section that says, quote, the present residential open space provisions are similar to their industrial and commercial counterparts. In practice, different settings justify different approaches. It's my contention that the yacht property justifies a better approach. We as a community, the residents, as stated in the CP, of a concern that the ongoing growth threatens the fulfillment of the very interest that binds them, that is the community of Victor, to their community. And the fears that Victor, that they identify with, could come to be a victim of its own. Clearly stated, it means our development is going to change Victor so much, it's not going to look like Victor anymore. Finally, I'm hoping you're happy about this, is finally. Without the development of a clear mission statement or a better mission statement, okay, especially about residential areas, future developmental proposals like this one will degrade the unique landscapes of Victor. Without a concise mission statement, scenic landscapes will be lost to the greed of developers. I implore you to look over that mission statement again before you make decisions and maybe expand it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
My name is Maura Steed. I live at 1117 Strong Road, and I am not very techy, so I have pictures that I have taken for you to see.
I couldn't get it to go on a slide, so.
We have them in front of us.
Anybody else want to see them? There you go.
Thank you.
All these, my mind is going like crazy with everything that has been presented tonight. And I am having a lot of difficulty understanding how we keep coming down to the issue of moving the houses around, just moving the houses around, and that's going to make everything better. And we have, of the neighbors, we have talked about the comprehensive plan, traffic patterns and road safety, and as was brought up, it's not a flat road. There are so many curves in this area that when you are pulling out of a driveway or from Taylor to Strong, it is significant. I never pull out of our driveway without making sure, even if I'm making a right turn, I make sure there's nobody coming in the other direction, because I have pulled out and can just see the cars coming along, and if they're coming along fast enough, they're going to have to go in the other lane to get away from me, or I have driven off to the side of the road too. So it is definitely a significant issue, even, and it would be especially so now with more driveways coming onto Strong. We have also brought up environmental issues on multiple levels. The proposed septics and wells, and now they're going to have to be perk tests again. And I'm wondering, what about the tests that are done that are going to, how is that going to affect the people who are downstream, so to speak, from this subdivision, and who are on wells and are fine with being on wells? And the Drumlins and the natural resources that they have brought to our area, that we have managed to come and live on this area that has been here for such a long time, and has fortunately, we are indebted to the indigenous people and the Senecas for preserving and being stewards of this land. And I am really disturbed that we cannot learn from this. They have water sources, creeks, streams, ponds, and their impact on this area, and the larger bodies of water they connect with. We have a responsibility for not just here, but how we affect what flows from here. We have the irreplaceable farmland, forever wildland that it's great to have the conservation area and all that surrounded by these enormous houses. And we're certainly not going to be having much wildlife coming into this area where there are these huge homes. I wonder why, I was so impressed with the elevation that was shown on the Sonic? No, whatever that you were addressing before, where we saw the way the building was going to look on the land. There has been no elevation done on what these houses, where they will be placed on the land. And as we saw before, going along Taylor Road, this is not a level land. This is quite dramatic land. And to have a house be put on there and to not even be able to see it, it's one thing to look down at the flat map, but to actually see an elevation rendering, I think would be quite eye-opening to everyone as to how this does and does not fit into our neighborhood, or the whole area of Strong Road and the rural aspect of it that has drawn everybody, so many people to it. And it is so disturbing to see that we have the possibility of losing this. And it seems to me that this is going to mark a time of the perspective on everything in this part of Victor that is so rich in its agricultural land. And we are not even working to find ways that we can bring in organizations, we can bring in, there are many ways, if there would be imaginative and creative vision building to preserve this land and not have the landowners lose money. They're not, if they need to make money and millions of dollars to destroy the land, it's a very pathetic thing. And I would like to think that when my husband and I chose to live out here, it was because we felt there was a high regard for nature and the land and the rural way of life. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Oh, Doug, I noticed that Babette came in from her earlier meeting.
Okay.
Babette, just know that I brought up your concern earlier. If you'd like to address the board, that's fine again, or did Doug? Something else?
Yep, before it was just comments, this is my actual presentation. Tom Moore, 1193 Strong Road. I am just upstream from this property. I have to say that I wrote my little presentation, not very long, a couple of days ago, but I didn't see this when I wrote it. And I have to admit that this is a small step in the right direction. And had I seen this earlier, then this might not be quite so critical. But I'm not gonna try and rewrite it on the fly. I'm gonna give it to you exactly as I wrote it, and I'll leave it up to you to decide what might have been softened had we seen this earlier, okay? Here goes. Apologies in advance. This whole process has gotten me a bit hot under the collar, but I must stress that not everyone who disapproves of this plan agrees with all that I have to say. This is my cheat sheet. I need it because my memory has deteriorated such that without it, I will make no more sense up here than this development plan does. This is my third time attending these meetings. The last one was somewhat better than the first because no board member was playing with their phones during that entire process. Thank you for that. I must repeat that it might be possible to develop this property in a way that the neighborhood and the board can be proud of, but it will not make the developers quite as filthy rich doing it that way, and that is the hurdle. I understand that we cannot stop this development, even though developing this particular property should probably never happen at all. But I don't understand the role of all the players here and the qualifications they have, or more importantly, don't have, for participating in the approval process. Is the board qualified or simply authorized to make such decisions? One does not validate the other. This town has spent an enormous amount of time producing the comprehensive plan, and so far, I have seen no effort whatsoever to use it to help guide this approval process, although that was the sole purpose of its existence. That plan stresses the necessary compatibility of any development with the surrounding existing neighborhood.
So before you continue, I would appreciate it if, instead of questioning the qualifications of the board, you stick to comments on the plan, please?
The qualifications are the issue.
They're not.
No, the public hearing, sir, is regarding the subdivision plan that's in front of the board tonight, not about the qualifications, the education, and the ability of this board to review a subdivision plan.
Education is irrelevant.
Your comments, the public hearing is for the purpose of commenting on the subdivision plan. Keep it to the plan.
Okay, let's jump over this, this particular part. This town has spent an enormous amount of time producing the comprehensive plan. And so far, I've seen no effort whatsoever to use it to help guide this approval process, although that was the sole purpose of its existence. This plan stresses the necessary compatibility of any development with the surrounding neighborhood. I understand that the comp plan is not codified and therefore has no teeth, but it remains the will of the people of Victor. Now, let's jump over the rest of this that you object to, if I can find it. Virtually all of the recent high-density developments in this town already prove that the comprehensive plan has been ignored. And it is slowly eroding all the reasons that many of the residents moved here for in the first place. And even, oh, no, you don't want to hear that either. Let's go to this. I have repeatedly heard the developer and even some board members say that no codes are violated by this design. If blindly following the code is all that is required for approval, then I submit that the approval process can be best and most accurately achieved by using a cheap, simple computer. There is no need for a board at all if just following the rules is all that matters. It has been some time but the Daily Messenger used to publish my editorials with some regularity. Maybe I should write one up for this. Bottom line, do the right thing. Raise the bar. It will be your legacy. Now I can go to the bathroom.
Too much information. Okay.
Just real quickly.
Doug?
Yeah, I just want to know how many people in here have had family members that have been living here in this neighborhood for 150 years, been paying taxes on a piece of land for that amount of time. There could be some of you, but back in 2000-ish, when they redid the comprehensive plan, they added the overlay district to this. What that means is prior to that, you could build 30 homes on this property. So the Ott family who lived here for 150 years or so had the potential of making profit off of 30 homes on this. They put the overlay district on it and changed it to a maximum of one unit per 3 acres, 0.33 acres per lot. I was a farmer growing up. It's tough. It's a tough life. And your value is in your land, and if you want to sell the land and retire to it, God bless you. And you have the right to earn a profit on your land. And this density is not high, it's very low. Because you have a 5-acre lot, there's something that's pretty interesting. The town of Perryton has a 1-3-5 zoning district. 1 is if you have sewer and water, 3 is if you have just water, and 5 is if you have neither. So all you people here had neither. So it's not surprising that your lots might be in that 5-acre range. But when you bring water in, then it's not surprising that you have 3-acre lots. These lots are big, they're very big. The homes are going to be beautiful. The landscape is a pasture land. What if it was all wooded? You know, there's other areas where you could look at. If you want to preserve some land, do what the town of Pittsford did. Buy up development rights of property. Go to your town board and convince them to buy development rights. Otherwise, the people who own property have a right to sell it for a reasonable price. They've been paying taxes on it for many, many years, and the reasonable price does revolve around how many lots they can get. And this has the minimum number of lots that can say that they can put on this property and make a profit. So, I'm sorry, quite frankly, but I get a little tired of hearing people who just don't want houses in their backyard because they've had beautiful views of vacant land for years. And their land at one point was vacant as well. That's all. Thank you.
On that note, I will end the discussion on this particular presentation, or application. And I don't believe we have anything else on the agenda.
So the public hearing will remain open.
Yes, the public hearing does remain open. You certainly will have an opportunity to comment when we see engineering plans come forward where you can actually see the effects that are outlined and shown in quite detail, honestly, for where houses are put, what kind of grading there will be, what kind of driveways that we put in, where they'll be routed, drainage, you name it, utilities. All of that gets heavily detailed by the developer as they're coming forward. If we do see something as a board that doesn't appear to fit, we make modifications even during that process. So I sympathize a little with how, well, I sympathize completely with how you folks are concerned with what's being done across the road from where you live. And I believe the entire board does that. And that's why we go through such a rigorous process, especially with a development, which is a major subdivision, which this qualifies as. So with that, we always listen to your comments. We thank you for them. We receive them in writing. We see them as you presented them here. We have them in meeting minutes. That Lisa spends a lot of time making sure they get typed up appropriately and they're available for the public to review as well. So with that, I will end my comments. I don't know if the board has anything else to say.
Move to adjourn.
There you go. I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting. Al seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Have a good evening, everyone.